The agenda was sent out. Alicia posted it on the website, so hopefully the public, you all received it, and the committee members received it on an email from me. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the agenda? If so, from someone in the committee, could I get a motion to accept the agenda?
Motion to accept the
Move
agenda.
to accept.
Okay, that was a motion to accept was from, I believe, Howie. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Craig. Before I do that, just for, so I'm sorry, motion passes to accept the agenda. Before I move over to the minutes, I just want to do a roll call for Alicia's benefit. So we've got Craig Rosenquist, Dave Sinkowski, Mike Gibbons, Rick Murray, Howie the K, Brian K, and I think that's it. There are no other committee members, correct? I'm sorry, Stephen. Steve Moan, no harbor master. Okay, so Alicia, I assume that helps. So that means, yeah, we're missing Dave Friedman and Tucker. Okay, Tucker Patterson and Dave. Great. All righty. So for the remaining committee members, have you an opportunity to review the minutes from our July meeting? And if so, could I get a motion to accept?
Yes, I read through them. I accept them.
So could I get a motion, a second?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Craig, could I get a second one? Howie?
Second.
Second. Thank you. All righty. So with that, we'll move right along over to the report.
Need to call for a vote.
Pardon me?
Need to call for a vote.
I have to have a vote on a roll call on accepting minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Murray.
Welcome.
Something you learned at UC Berkeley, or is this your selectman days, or as a former chairman of the Waterways? Fully above, right?
Just being a prick. Prick you.
Thank you very much.
University.
All right. So I'm going to go back. Now, Rick, can I do a combined?
You're fine. As long as it's voted.
Agenda and minutes? Okay. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to move right over to Harbor Master Moan. Steve, could you give us an update on the Harbor Master report?
Well, things are going along. We had the weather that came through yesterday. I sent out a constant contact alert of, the impending, their pennants, and checked on their boats and pumps, etc. We only had one issue in the harbor yesterday. It was a boat that was over it on its own mooring by the yacht club, and it actually dragged its mooring. This morning, going to change the size of this to a much larger stone. Pretty surprised that it moved. I sent out another
Stephen? Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit there. So I believe what you said was a very large sailboat over by Scituate Harbor Yacht Club, grabbed the mooring block, and you're having them look
by the yacht club.
Mooring block, correct?
Over by the yacht club, yes.
Okay.
Did you get all that?
We got all that. Thank you.
Okay.
So I assume you probably, since you're on a smartphone, you probably don't have the opportunity to look at the agenda as well. So why don't I prompt you through it? It's my understanding that there have been a couple of rescues over the past month. Could you touch base on those?
Sure. So in the past, in the month, end of June, beginning and into July, the Harbor Master's Office had 2 rescues. The first one, John Hatherley and James Polk and Rich Kelly was working the desk that evening. They got a call that there was a boat fire about 5 miles offshore. John Hatherley and James Polk were actually already underway, so they went out. They got to the boat and they removed the 8 passengers and 1 German Shepherd from the boat. Scituate MP1 also came out shortly thereafter, and they brought some of the firefighters out with them. So that was, we got a letter from the owner. He was very happy that my staff acted in such a professional manner and were out there as quickly as they were rescue them. The second rescue was kind of a combined effort. It started at Egypt Beach. There were three 13-year-olds surfing on the beach on July 3rd, and they got swept out in a rip current. The lifeguard went out after them, and he actually corralled the three youths onto his board. We got the call from the lifeguard that was on the beach that their lifeguard and three youths were being being dragged out. They were about 100 yards offshore in probably 6-foot swells, breaking waves. Rich Kelly with John Hatherley made their way out in Unit 1, and John Layton was working the desk. They were able to move Unit 1 into the surf, and because the lifeguard had everybody corralled together, John Hatherley was able to pull the three youths out of the water and then grab the lifeguard. And then they returned them to Scituate Harbor, where they were met by Scituate Fire Rescue. Again, MP1 was also on scene. They did a great job.
Great. Any questions on that from members of the committee?
Nope.
Okay. And if everybody could bear with me 1 second, I think Maura Curran's trying to join.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, Maura, you're out there. Okay, great, thank you. All right, Stephen, thank you very much. That's a great job by your guys. Obviously, I understand the lifeguard got a commendation as well, so that's fantastic news that everybody on both the that rescue and also on the vessel were safe and sound. So jumping over to in the harbor status, one of the things we had was this August 1st was the Bell Parkway and Center slip wait list sign up. Rick Murray, we didn't see you. We figured you'd come back for another year of pain.
I'm all set.
Even though I know you got a slip, you had so much fun last year. I figured you'd be back again. So, Stephen, maybe you can give us some comments into how many people signed up and anything associated with that.
Well, first off, I had prepared myself and my staff, and we went out and measured out different areas along the grass, and I used spray paint to just mark off 10-foot sections. So every 10 feet, I just put a dot in the grass, like a pink dot, so that people would have an idea of, how far apart they need to be for social distancing. And we included a little area for, if they put down a chair or if there were two of them there, that they still would be far enough apart. We had signs up that if they weren't able to social distance, that they were to wear a mask. And we had another sign up that this is where the line starts and that they were to social distance. The first people started showing up on Thursday night at about 8 o'clock. And by Friday afternoon, we had about 20 people in line. They made it all the way over to the bandstand at that point. And by Friday evening, we had probably 3 or 4 others. And by Saturday morning at 8 a.m., we had about 35 people in line. I went out and spoke to them, kind of told them how we were going to move people through the line and asked them all to put on their masks. I waited for Brian Kelly. He showed up. We had a table set up outside the harbor master office with where Ellen was there to answer any questions. We had a bin with clean pens in it and a bin where you dropped your clean pen in so that we could sanitize the pen as people moved through the lines. It went very well. It took about 45 minutes for everybody to get through the line, and it worked out really well. I led the beginning of the last group of people to meet with the beginning of the next group, end of the next group of people. So they're all kind of lined up and nobody cut in line, and there were no issues of people thinking that somebody got ahead of them. And Brian, you were there. What did you think? It seemed to go okay as far as you were concerned?
Absolutely. You guys did a great job. So I showed up the night before and talked to people who were online. And the next morning was there about 7:30 and did the same. And then I stood back and observed. I saw the line cutting. It was done very orderly. The social distancing requirements. And I spoke with a number of people after they had completed the process and asked them about it, and everybody seemed to be happy. So hopefully we don't get a rogue call from someone like we did last year. But overall, it certainly seemed to be a well-run operation. So thank you, Stephen.
I thought my staff did a great job, and it was nice having you there, just so that there was someone from Waterways observing, so that if there was any issues, we could address them together.
Great. So before we hit the next item, which is some shoaling in the river, which Steve, you'll
Actually, yeah.
maybe.
Brian, if I can just chime in.
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, just to confirm or reaffirm that, I did a stealth visit to the line. I went down to Dunkin' Donuts, grabbed something, and kind of walked through. I think it was Friday afternoon or something like that. And I just asked people, I said, what the hell is all this for? What are you guys camping out for? Played real dumb, which I do real well. And, they explained it to me, and I said, how does it work? Because I wanted to see if a person in line actually knew how it worked. And they explained it all perfectly. So somebody about halfway to the bandstand, maybe 8 or 10 in line. So I was real pleased, they just, everybody was on board. They were all doing it, and, no issues. So it was good.
And
So
thank you, Rick.
Throughout the day on Friday, first thing in the morning, and probably a half dozen other times throughout the day, I went back up and down the line, kind of let them know, what to expect, what was going on.
Yeah.
I also let them know that there was free Wi-Fi, there was places to plug in their computers if they needed computers, and also advised them to put sunscreen on.
Thank you, Mom.
I didn't want anybody with a sunburn.
Very nice. So, so to the members of the public, if there's any questions as we're moving along, you have the ability to, quote unquote, virtually raise your hand. So there may be some interest in the next item, which Stephen's going to talk about, which is some shoaling in the South River. So should you want to ask any additional questions, please raise your hand and we'll demute you, so to speak, or unmute you and be able to engage in conversation. So Stephen, maybe you could talk about the issue about potential shoaling in the South River, I believe it is.
Yeah, there's one area where the South River and North River intersect. It's at the NR buoy, and it's a green over red, I believe. And there's an area in there where there is some shoaling has started to occur. Mike DeMeo and I had the Coast Guard out about a month ago on Mike's patrol boat. We went out and looked at the area, and both Mike and I have been in talks with the Coast Guard in regards to having them come out and do a survey to see if the aid to navigation that NR buoy should be moved either east or west a little bit. But that's where that stands right now.
Okay. Any questions from anyone out in the audience on that?
Yeah, I get a quick question. So this is part of the area that was just dredged last summer, right?
No, this isn't quite this. The area that was dredged last summer was a little bit further in.
Oh, it was, okay.
This is right at that buoy itself.
Okay, so I know.
Right
I thought-
right on that buoy, and where they dredged was just a little bit further in,
Okay.
probably
I thought they
25
did-
yards or so.
I thought they did there, and I thought they did part of the channel going out as well.
Nope, they did not do any of the channel going out. That was plenty deep. They adjusted a couple of aids to navigation.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
So this is really where the A zone commences, Stephen? Is that what you're saying?
It's before Area A. So
Okay.
if you make the turn at the river,
Yep.
and the back of the barge was probably right at the NR buoy, but the dredge itself was at the front of the barge.
Got it. Okay. All righty.
So last question on it. So do we think just a movement of the buoy will be fine? There's plenty of water. It's just that the channel marker needs to be moved so that it's better water at low tide.
It's possible that could be the solution, but these are federal aids, so they're going to have to come in and do the survey.
Okay, understood. Yeah.
Any other comments from the waterway? Mike, you're done, I assume.
Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you.
No questions from the public. Okay, Seth, Alicia, if you see anybody raising the hand, if you would let us know. Okay. So moving over to old business, Stephen, I'm going to stay with you.
Okay.
I understand that up in Maine, there was another issue on the boat delivery in terms of both a delay in supplies, materials coming in because of coronavirus reasons, and also his ability to schedule multiple people on the boat. We have a new delivery date. Isn't that correct?
We do. We also have a new signed change order. There was no cost to the new change order, and it has been signed with a new delivery date of October 1st. Part of the change order was to eliminate one of the pumps and some of the gear down below deck and replace it with some fuel lines and exhaust system for the new fire pump that Chief Murphy has purchased. So it came out to a net zero change order, which is always nice.
Okay. And this new pump, it's my understanding that was a lot of the money that was required for that came through donations that Chief Murphy was able to raise. Correct, Stephen?
Correct. All
Okay.
the new pump, the funding was done with donations from the marina owners, also Columbia Gas, and I believe National Grid.
Okay. So as from the perspective for the waterways members, from the finances that we've discussed at a number of meetings, the dollar amount remains the same on a go-forward basis.
Exactly the same.
Thank you. So if we could do a status on the pump out for the North and South River, it's my understanding that Eric Road is up and running. Is that correct, Stephen?
That is correct. He has a pump station at his where the fuel dock is at Rote Marine on the Marshfield side. So you can just pull in there, and they have a pump station right there. And then that goes to what they call a tight tank, and then it gets pumped out from there.
Okay. And it's my understanding that both you and Harbor Master DeMeo have had some conversations with a private party in the South River that may or may not move forward with acquiring a pump out boat which would handle the South River. Is that correct?
Yes, and also I spoke with the North-South River Association, and I talked to them about the possibility of that group acquiring a pump-out boat through the Clean Vessel Act, and I am not sure if they're still interested in doing it or not, but I know that they have been talking about it, and that would be a pump-out boat that would go up and down both the north, south, and I believe the Heron River.
Great. Great. Okay, so we'll stay on top of that, and hopefully either the North and South River Watershed Association or the private person moves forward, which would be a great thing. If there's no questions from anybody on the committee or in the public, we'll move over to activity on the Spit and surrounding rivers. I know you and Harbor Master DeMeo continue to coordinate patrol schedules. Can you comment upon any activity? Because I'm sure the mayor of South Scituate, who's on this call, may have some interest in that.
Yeah, so I've been working with Mike DeMeo and with Scituate Police with patrols, and my staff has been down there pounding away at it. And when we're not down there, either Mike DeMeo's group is down there or MP1 is down there. And I believe it's really slowed things down in the river. I've also just received, I have 5 buoys that I'm going to be deploying. They're slow, no wake buoys, and I'm having 2 signs put up. I told Harbor Master DeMeo that I would place those buoys in the North River, and then he could handle acquiring and placing buoys in the South River, along with some signs. And I believe that will also help, so people understand that it is a no-wake zone, and there's really no reason for them, to be up on plane or speeding around.
Okie dokie.
Could I jump in there? I'm on my phone here. This is Brendan McCauley, Scituate Police Marine Unit.
Sure.
So I just want to make a comment on that. I think that this year we've been definitely working better to do joint coverage in the river. And we have a lot of other area to cover. This year we've seen a dramatic uptick in people on the water, from power boats to paddle boards to kayaks. The volume of people has been the highest in recent memory, I believe, out here. And it's made it a very busy time to be out here and trying to do patrol work. Our boat stops have been up dramatically, and we've seen a huge uptick in unregistered vessels and people that are new to boating that don't have the required equipment. So we've been trying to do like an educational type boat stop and advising people on the safety regulations, rules of the road, things of that nature. We also have noticed that Rope Marine has had their rental fleet almost completely sold out every day. So you have a lot of people that aren't familiar with the area, aren't familiar with the conditions over here, that have been getting themselves in trouble. And we've had a lot of interactions with those boats this year also. So overall, it's been a very busy year. And I think any of you that have been out in boating have seen that the Spit, like every day seems like a Saturday. It's busy over here all the time. And the amount of people on the weekends and the amount of outer town boats where you have the issues with them shutting down the mooring fields at World's End and Hingham, and then a couple other areas, I think you're having a lot of people migrate down here. So we're seeing a lot of out of towners also down here. So that's the upside for the outlook from the police department anyway on all that. We've been seeing a huge amount of foot traffic coming back out to the Spit again, like we had in recent years. So we've been doing very good with trying to get out here on our side-by-side. We just acquired 2 ATVs, which we took possession of today, that we were able to secure some funding for. So we're going to start doing some ATV patrols. The thing about that is they're able to get out here even at high tide, where our side-by-side was limited in mobility. It can't go over the heavier rocks to get out here. So we should be able to have a stronger presence moving forward once we get these machines commissioned.
Great. Thank you, Brendan. Anybody on the waterways have any questions for Brendan on those?
Yeah, Dave Sinkowski here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes?
So just some feedback from a user. I was there on the 4th of July weekend, and on the 4th, the coverage was fantastic. Marshfield, Harbor Master, and Scituate, and the police. So nothing you could ask for more. I was always there on that Friday also before the 4th. I was there from 12 to 5. And the only coverage was the Scituate Harbor Master. There was a boat that did a pass from about 1 o'clock up the river and back, and then maybe one at 2:30. And that was the only support. I think that we could use more, maybe some what I call hover power, where someone anchors there for a while and kind of watches that area. I know the area up by Rote Marine is also important, but the Spit is a hot spot, and I worry that we don't have enough coverage. And I was there this Saturday, and there was from 12 to 5 also. And the first coverage was at about 4:30. The Scituate Police came through, and 20 minutes later, the Harbor Master came through. So if we could somehow coordinate that, where the Harbor Master was a few hours earlier, and we separate these, I worry that we have good coverage all within an hour or two, and then no one for a while. And I understand this is difficult and challenging with different organizations, but still it's the task in front of us. So I just put it out there for feedback, that's all.
So I would definitely agree that we could definitely use more personnel to adequately patrol. I don't know, not seeing the boat in front of the Spit doesn't necessarily mean that our boat isn't off the dock. Our boat is staffed every day for anywhere from 8 to 12 hours, depending on the day. And we have a large AOR. It's not just the North and South River. And the good thing about the North and South River is that it also has the ability to be patrolled by the harbor masters from both Marshfield and Scituate. So I agree, there definitely should be better communication. I think from our end, we're trying to do our best to establish that communication and let people know when we're on and where we're going. But Bassins Beach is just as crazy as the Spit, and Bassins Beach is Scituate. So we spend a lot of time up that direction also. So just because we're not in the river, it doesn't mean we're out, you know. And we utilize the mooring a lot. The mooring that Harbor Master DeMeo was able to put in right just past the junction buoy going into the North River. I personally am on that boat on a 4 and 2 schedule, and I use that mooring a lot and sit there and slow traffic down just by mere presence.
Thank you, Brendan.
Brad White question.
Brad, for our recording secretary, Alicia, could you, and anybody else from the public who comments, if you could just state your name and address, that'd be great. Go ahead, Brad.
Sure. Thank you. Brad White, Marshfield Hills. Comment and a question. I think the patrols have been good, but I was out anchored at the Spit probably a couple of weeks ago, and I'm noticing during ebb tide, there are a lot of swimmers that are now swimming into the channel, which can be really dangerous. And some Yahoo came through on his bow rider, probably at 8 to 9 knots, and I motioned to him to slow down, and he shot me the bird. So, you know, that wasn't very nice of him to do that, but there were people that he could have hit in the river. So, Brendan, who would I report that to? To you or to Scituate Harbor Master? That's question one. And then question two is, where do you launch those ATVs from?
So I apologize for if you get any background noise. I'm actually on my personal boat tonight with the kids. So I'm trying to get sweatshirts on. I'm going to do my best to answer your question and multitask here. The ATVs, just because that's the last thing I heard, they are deployed off a third cliff. There's a right of access at the bottom of Michael Ave that we use, right, and that's how we would get out.
Do you have a ramp? You have a ramp there?
No,
Do you have
no.
a ramp there?
Nope. There's a walking path that is a right of access for
Right.
beachgoers to go by there, and it's flat enough for us to traverse that. The thing is, though, the cobble at high tide, we're forced to go through some heavier cobble higher up, and that's about a 45-degree angle, and it's really heavy cobble. So our side-by-side
Yeah.
ATV really isn't designed to do that. But these lighter, smaller single-seat ATVs are going to be able to transverse that. We were able to secure a used one that we've been almost doing a proof of concept with. And Officer Keefe, our natural resource officer, has been making frequent patrols using it. And it's worked out really well. So we went ahead and were able to, Tree Thompson was able to secure some funding for 2 more brand new that were delivered today, Polaris.
Well, that's great. Who do we report to on speeders that are obnoxious speeders?
Absolutely. So I see that. I mean, I'm over here a lot, especially at night with my family. I see it. It's definitely a problem. We address it as much as we possibly can. I think you call the harbor master. They're staffed 16 hours a day. They're down there. Absolutely. We monitor the radio traffic. We have 4 radios in that boat, and we monitor 9, 13, 16, and 14. So if there's traffic that goes across, we're going to hear it.
Okay.
You know, and if we're in the area, we'll respond. Absolutely. You can always call our dispatch. If you can snap a picture of the boat or something like that, and we can come and see you and get a good description of it, or possibly an MS number, we'd be happy to follow up with those people and advise them of the proper rules of the road in the river system.
Great. Terrific. Good idea. And noted. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brad. And Brendan, thank you very much for also Chief Thompson's support from the land side. I live up on Third Cliff, overlook it, and I've seen the side-by-side struggling to get across that cobble. I'm glad to hear they have the ATVs. They come out right by that Michael Road Paperway, by the large house that's being built. I've seen you guys try to struggle through it at high tide, so I know the difficulty, and it's great to hear about the ATV. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I think what we did, especially with the inception of this unit 6 years ago, is we had a dramatic downturn with the large volumes of kids, really, that were out there, that were leaving trash, going into the bird fence, cutting through the neighborhood, stealing people's coolers off the back deck. I feel like we did a fairly good job of turning that down over the last few years with higher visibility patrols and more frequent patrols. But the problem this year is everybody's looking to escape, and the beach gives you that escape, and boats give you that escape. So we're seeing, and it's a very interesting time to be doing any type of policing, just with people's stress levels and everything else that's going on. So we have to devote a lot of attention to different places. And just because our call volume has seen a sharp uptick across the entire department, it doesn't necessarily mean that our manpower has gone up. So we definitely do the best we can, and we welcome the phone calls. You know, hey, there was a group of 15, 20 younger looking youths with all heavy weighted backpacks that were dripping liquid out of the bottom, heading out to the spit. You know, we welcome those calls, and we'll go out and maybe have a conversation with those kids. We've been seeing a ton of out-of-towners. It really, I think the kids in Scituate know the rules out here, respect the environment out here. We've been seeing a ton of out-of-town kids when we're making these encounters on these large groups that are coming down here.
Agreed. Thank you, Brendan. Okay, any other questions or comments from anyone out?
Dave Dauphney. Hello?
Sure. Name and address?
Dave Dauphney, 356 Clap Road, West End, South Scituate, Mass.
Go ahead, Maya.
I just want to, not to beat a dead horse, echo what was going on there. I've seen a huge improvement of what was undoubtedly going to be chaotic summer down at the river, and I can't thank all of the agencies enough for their attention to this. I'd like to see more of the camera coverage from Marshfield. I'd like to see a little bit more of their activity at least in the North River. I can't speak for the South River, but as far as the anchoring goes, just an opinion, you know, they hang on a mooring. Everybody knows where you are. They come around the corner, and it's a straightaway between the Spit and Damon's Point. Again, more paddle craft than I can ever remember. on the river, anchorage. I went into the South River the other day. I thought I was entering Scituate Harbor. There was so many boats in the deep hole, what they call the deep hole there. So there is a lot of activity, and I just thank you to all aspects of enforcement for watching out for us down there, and especially to Harbor Master Moen for his lead on grabbing this bull by the horns and making some things happen here. So it's good that we got some signage. I would imagine this is a warning type period. I would imagine there's a log, or I would assume that there's a log of stops, MS numbers, and frequent flyers of the blue light special would be issued sterner warnings and/or tickets as the summer progresses. So just want to say thank you to all.
Thank you, David.
Hey, Brian.
Is that Mr. Cronin?
Yes, yeah, Brian Cronin, 5 Dartmouth Street, South River, Scituate side. I just thought I'd just reiterate Dave's comment. Is the increased patrols definitely have helped quiet things down. You still have the people flying up and down occasionally when there's nobody around, but definitely, the police, harbor master, the Scituate harbor master, and also Marshfield, and then the feds as well. It's been since the 4th of July, I think since they've really made an effort. It's been great. And I just say keep it up, and like Dave said, start writing tickets so the people will keep doing it.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, since there are no more comments from the audience, instead what we want to go over to is Steve, if you could comment back on the comprehensive dredge. Chairman, I understand we're finally going to be able to kick this, the beginnings of getting the documentation together for an RFP. Stephen?
Yes, I started working on the RFP, and like I said at the last meeting, Kyle was just finishing up a project for the town. Kyle's the coastal resource officer, and he was down yesterday in my office, and he's going to be presenting that document to the town administrator. I believe it's this Friday, is what the town administrator had said in the meeting that Brian, you and I were at.
Yes.
So Kyle should be able to help me work on this comprehensive dredge permit starting next week.
So I can anticipate from some of the Waterways members at a minimum. The question, Stephen, do you have any idea when an end date, when the RFP maybe actually be ready to be released out to bid?
At this point, I do not. I'm hoping to get it out this fall, but I do not, have a date in mind.
So is the process that you and Kyle work on this, you take information from a variety of sources, it goes out to town council for review, engineering for review, and then release?
Yes, that's how it's done. And then it has to go on combis, goes in the newspaper, and then, there would be a bid opening, and then it would have to be approved by the selectmen.
Brian,
or
can
accepted by the
I ask a
selectmen.
question? Brian, Craig.
I'm sorry, is that Craig?
Yeah. Is there any value for us to look it over before it goes out to RFP?
Probably not you, Craig.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
just kidding. Of course, I'm sure that Stephen will welcome any input from the Waterway members. Correct, Stephen?
You guys can do it if you want.
I'm just interested in looking it over.
Yeah, you can take a look at it.
Okay.
I think Craig's got a good
No
point.
problem
It's also good education for us who have not been involved before. So why not?
Okay,
Not a problem.
so if we can target Stephen, I don't know if this September meeting is too soon for a rough draft, but certainly by October to get a review out to us, even if it's still not a finished draft, just so people can get an idea of what exactly that we're doing above and beyond applying for an RFP to do the comprehensive permit, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. Any other comments from Waterway members or the public?
Yeah, Brian, I've got a comment on it. We keep talking about this project month after month after month. And even as of right now, we don't even have a target finish date for this. And it's disconcerting because we don't want to miss any opportunities. For instance, the people in the lobster dock, we might need some dredging shortly, or the north side of the Scituate Maritime Center, which needs to be dredged so that we can have additional revenue. So I'd like to be a little more definitive as to what's the target date to complete maybe phase one, and ultimately when do we expect to get this out? Not just maybe at the next month or maybe the month after or mañana. We got to bring this thing to a head. So I'd like to see a little more definition as to when we're going to complete it.
Fair point. Stephen, you want to comment?
November 15th.
For first draft?
Would that work?
November 15th for first draft, Stephen?
No, to have something ready to go, out to bid.
So without
I think it can probably be done by November 15th to have
Okay.
the RFP ready to go.
So without getting too far into the weeds, can we target next month to do at least an outline understanding of what where the RFP is, or the progress on getting this thing released?
I have a lot of it written already.
Okay.
So Kyle's going to help me with a lot of it, a lot of the technical information. So I could probably, as long as Kyle is going to be available starting next week, we could probably have it probably for the next meeting, or send it out just after, like September 15th for a rough draft to review it on October 1st.
Howie?
I lost you. I'm sorry, I lost you there for a second. Well, why don't we try that? What would be wrong with that? I would think we could get a rough draft by the next meeting. If he's drafted so much and Kyle's starting to review it, that's 4 weeks away. And move forward from that point.
Okay, so Stephen, even if it's not fully baked, why don't we shoot for that? All right?
Sure, that works.
Thank you. Anyone else out there? Okay, so that brings us to new business. As Stephen made reference to, Stephen and I were in a meeting with the Town Administrator Jim Boudreau, Nancy Holt, Michelle Segazy, regarding a number of issues. One of them came up was the Maritime Center, as I'm referring to, delineation of responsibility. And frankly, that was the account, as the Waterways members may remember, that we were getting none of the revenue, but certainly picking up the tab on a number of the expenses. And with Nancy's help, earlier this year, we successfully moved all the expenses back over. A fund was created for the Maritime Center, and now all the revenue expenses are there. However, there's still some action items regarding the grounds, the interior, cleanup, bookings, in terms of whose responsibility it was. So Nancy pulled together a document with Michelle that defined whose responsibility is whose. There are some edits on it. I anticipate that it should be complete sometime by the end of this week, at which point I'll gladly share it with the other Waterways members should you want. But the net here at this point, the only responsibility that the Harbor Master's Office will have on that is mulching, some annual weeding for the Maritime Center. And then on cleaning, we will have responsibility for the bathrooms in season, since the Maritime Center and Marina patrons will be using that. And we're responsible for the cost of any cleaning supplies that go into those facilities. However, the calendaring, reservation systems, all the the obviously maintenance costs, paint and plumbing and heating and AC, all of that, all those costs come out of the SMC revolving fund, as well as the costs of the mulching, rather the actual supplies and the mulching. So like I said, this is almost a completed responsibility project, and I will share it with everybody. So if anybody from the Waterways has any questions, I think I kind of covered everything on that. That's great. But if should there be any questions, please jump in right now.
Ryan, was there any discussion regarding the entryway to the Scituate Marine Park, the driveway and the condition, and the fact that we have periodic potholes there? We'd like to see some more of a permanent solution to that where we can grade it off and make it, if not functional for one, without the potholes, but two, a little more aesthetically pleasing to the public as they enter the park and for use of the Maritime Center. So was there any discussion about getting the driveway fixed permanently?
As permanently as it can be, Howie, absolutely, there was discussions. That's not yet on here. However, DPW is going to work with both the harbor master and the waterways department after in the slack season between the times that Scituate Boat Works gets all the boats out and gets the lot set, and prior to the opening in May. So in that time frame, the plan is for DPW to come in and put the grading and a hard pack, and I'm not sure the commercial terminology behind that, but effectively something that's quasi-concrete like, but passes conservation rules and requirements. That is scheduled to be done in the springtime, as I mentioned before, before the May 15 launch season.
Perfect.
It could be some change on that, but that is the target date. DPW will be doing the work. And at this point, it's my understanding that the SMC revolving fund will be paying for the greater portion of that.
I think that's terrific. I just want to be sure I was on someone's agenda to try to make the entranceway a little more pleasing to the general public and for use, so that we're just not fighting the pothole situation every time it rains there. Of course, the right we're going, it's not going to rain again, so it won't be a problem, but maybe someday it will.
Agreed. And certainly the potholes are bad now. And once the winter comes and the water freezes in those and they widen, it gets even worse. And driving through those, it's like craters on the moon. So that's something that obviously is long overdue, right?
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
Sure. And I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, there's a project that, while the Waterways is not associated with it, it does impact us. It's called the Museum Beach Nourishment Project. It's on the conservation website. Effectively, what they've issued is the fact that effective August 15th, no personal property will be allowed to be stored on Museum Beach, as they're going to be doing a beach nourishment project. All personal items, that includes boats, kayaks, et cetera, have to be removed. Otherwise, all items that are on the beach after this date will be removed by the Scituate DPW and disposed of. So for anyone out there or anyone who has any friends that have any kayaks or other related pieces of marine equipment that are located on Museum Beach, obviously they need to be removed in the next 10 days. Or otherwise, the DPW will be doing that for them. So I just wanted to bring everybody up to date on that. At which point the question becomes, what happens to these kayaks and other watercraft? Where do they go? And I know that there was certainly a request by one of the Waterways members to consider some discussion regarding some small vessel decals. I've got an email out to Conservation to understand their time frame for completion, and at the conclusion of this, my assumption is they will not allow watercraft to be there. If you would like to table the small vessel decal discussion until we get that at the next meeting. I'm good with that. However, if people want to comment upon it right now, that's fine for me too. Okay. So the next item is our financials are not audited yet until they're audited because of things that I don't understand in government accounting. Our retained earnings will go to zero until the audit's complete, and that doesn't mean they're not available, or rather they're there. What it means is on any type of financials that are published by Nancy, they're zeroed out. So we finished the year at $277,000 in retained earnings, and that is exclusive of the FEMA reimbursement, which was $133,000. There are some encumbrances, there are some overages on the revenue side, which is a positive thing. However, there is some operating expenses which yet to have been paid. All in all, we should be finishing within 10% of 400,000, and frankly, I think we'll be above 400,000 on retained earnings. And those audited numbers should be available for the October meeting. I think the September meeting may be a little bit aggressive. However, Nancy is committed to me to get me that information as soon as possible. As soon as she does, I'll share that with everybody. One of the items Nancy brought up was the Waterways Enterprise Stabilization Fund is now established. And I'm not sure if there's a desire, but I want to open this up as new business and then discuss it as old business at the meeting, but I wanted to get people's feedback. Today, if we have an expense above $25,000, the process is we have to go through, unless it's an emergency, we have to go through the whole process and then the town meeting to vote, et cetera, et cetera. However, there's a way to earmark money and put it into the stabilization. There's two things. There's ways to earmark money for certain specific items. So for example, future dock replacement, and put it in the stabilization fund. It can only be used for that. The second thing is there's a way to put money in there, 25, 50,000, whatever the case may be. And should there be a reason that we need to go access that money, we're able to do that through the Waterways voting on it and going to advisory, and then having these monies available for a project. So, which, again, it would be, as Nancy told me, it would be projects in the well under $100,000 range. So there's the possibility for us to move that over. My thought is once we understand where we are in retained earnings, that we should have a more intense discussion as to what we do in terms of the potential to utilize this stabilization fund. So I know I'm giving you a lot of information without a lot of background. So should you have any questions on this, let me know. I'll do my best. If not, my thought is to get some additional background from Nancy for next meeting. And if we do have retained earnings, then we could have a little bit greater in-depth discussion. So any questions on that?
Yeah, Brian, it's Mike Gibbons. I just had a couple quick questions. At first you said there was 277,000 in retained earnings, but then you said later it's 400 and some odd thousand is what we should have.
Yeah, so there's 277 without the FEMA reimbursement, and the reimbursement was 133.
Yeah.
So that would bring us up to 410.
Okay.
We had some extra revenue, so to speak, from what was budgeted. So, but we also had some expenses and encumbrances that have to settle out.
Yeah.
We should be finishing somewhere in the $400,000 range.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
Sure. All righty. I think we're good on that. And that will be appearing in next month on the old business item. So all right, last two items. At the last month's meeting, there was a discussion, as I mentioned, Jim Boudreau had asked us other towns, for example, Plymouth and other towns, the town has a small spring which they advertise to help drive business. And Jim's question was, how can we drive additional foot traffic into the harbor? Could the town own moorings, a small set of moorings, and that would help drive through advertising on DACWA people to use restaurants and other businesses in the harbor. So we opened this discussion last month. Steve was able to identify, as everybody on the committee is aware of, based upon coronavirus and the uncertainty with people's employment, medical issues, et cetera. We gave extensions to June 15th when the dust settled. We have 3 or 4 moorings that at least 3 of them are in the 30-foot range, which would be available should the town decide to have them and advertise on DACWA. And we're not looking to go compete with anybody that's out there. Instead, as I mentioned, this was a request that the Waterways take a look at it to see if this is something that, if the town did this and advertised on DACWA, would it drive additional revenue? So with that background, I open it up for the Waterways Committee for discussions. I'm sorry, one last point before I do that. I asked them to double check from an insurance point of view whether or not our existing insurance policies would cover anything associated with us having these moorings and the use of them. So I don't have that information yet. Michelle is looking into it and said she would get back to us on that. Anyone out there? Dr. Murray, anyone have any comments?
Yeah, this is Mike Gibbons. So there's 3 to 4 moorings roughly, and I think you said they're all in the 30-foot range. Is that correct?
Yeah, if Steve's out there, he can confirm. I know we have 3. I think it's questionable on the 4th. Steve, can you comment back on that? Or do we?
Yeah, it's 3 for sure, and there is one that is questionable whether it's usable or not.
When you say not usable, because of the gear or the actual location itself?
No, we may have to adjust some boats around it to get them to fit in better.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
Brian, the questions from our last meeting were, what are the length of these 3 moorings? Will they hold a 30-foot boat? And what are their approximate locations in the harbor? Do we know that now?
We do know that they all would support a 30-foot boat. And
Hold on.
go ahead, Stephen.
I'm just looking at them right now.
And I know Stephen has the mooring number to answer your next question, David.
There were 2 in the inner harbor and 1 in the outer harbor. Okay.
Very good.
Can I ask a question?
Please do, Craig.
Is there any issue of people on the waiting list for a mooring? I mean, I know there's people waiting for a long time. Would this take them away from those people that are waiting?
It wouldn't take it away from them. They would be on the waiting list.
So, these three that free up, the town would take them over, and so that they wouldn't get a mooring.
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay.
They stay on the list, but they'd be delayed by 3 spots.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I think this is a great idea. get the town more on the map, get the revenue going to the town, bring in business. I think it's a good start.
Okay. Howie?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Murray. I think it's another opportunity. We can advertise the town on Docwa. I think that's a huge hit. We've seen that with the slips that we have this year with transient boaters. So here's another opportunity to push the town and the town resources. And there are plenty of boats going by in the spring and fall that need a place to pull in. A lot of those boaters, those transient boaters come in, they have their own dinghies. They simply want mooring, they could pick it up on an automated basis through Docwa and come ashore to the dinghy dock and explore the town and hopefully spend some money here. So I think it's a good idea.
Thank you. Howie, okay. Before, I believe that's it on the committee. Before we actually would take a vote whether or not move forward with writing a letter to Jim saying we endorse this to Jim or don't endorse it. I'd like to open it up for public comment. Anyone out there that's muted, if you need to, raise your hand. For those that aren't, if we can quickly do this again, if you would like to speak, would you please, for Alicia's help, would you please state your name and address?
Sure, David Dauphiny, 356 Clap Road, Scituate.
Thank you, David.
Just a question, and I don't know the answer to this, that's why I asked it. Have we checked out anchorage? Is there any areas within our harbor that would be suitable for anchorage where we as a town or a harbor aren't responsible for tackle or maintenance or expense that way, and it's suitable for obviously weather dependent, but would it be suitable for anchorage, or is all our space taken in the mooring field itself?
Stephen?
David, I believe, I look out there, I ride around, and everything that I see that's suitable for this is taken. I mean, there's moorings everywhere, and it's relatively tight out there. So no, not at this point.
And my second to that question would be, in regards to transient boaters who their home port is Scituate and they leave for a week or two or three, how does that work as far as the harbor master's office goes? Has that been fairly fluent as far as people notifying you that they'll be gone for a week or 2 or 5 days or whatever it may be, and those moorings, again, pre-existing, they're there, they should be, assuming they're inspected and up to date and all those things. Do we have any transient on that, or is that not really a big deal?
Well, they should be notifying us, but again, this is one of the regulations that is not being adhered to right now, and we are not being notified. However, the other launch services that are out there, whether it be, Cedar Point, the Yacht Club, or the Boat Club, I believe they're notifying, them.
Yeah, they're members. I'm sure they're members of those groups that would notify them, and that's a turn off. Okay, just a point of clarification, I guess, on those two things. I thought it would be easier. It would be nice if somebody came in and dropped their anchor and we didn't have to be responsible for anything but their stay.
Right. Just to amplify what Stephen was saying, for the two marinas, our Docwa revenue has increased pretty significantly because of the fact that a number of people, including one of the Waterways members, has notified them when they leave their slips. But that's slips. Correct, Stephen?
I mean, last year, I can say I don't believe we really rented anything at the Maritime Center. This year, we have had 2 to 3 boats out regularly, and it's been booked, which is really good. I mean, we're always booked at Cole Parkway, but to actually get boats in over at the Maritime Center has been great.
Nice.
That's good.
Great.
I mean, any marina that's not on Docwa is just losing money because I can't believe the increase that we've seen. You know, just I don't have the dollar figures, but I know compared to last year, the amount of boats in our marinas, we're full all the time.
That's good. That's good. That's good to hear because there was some questions bouncing around on that Docwa thing, and it's. I think obviously people looked into it and they understood it better than anyone like myself, and it worked to the benefit, which is great. And it was whether it was a guttural feeling or a I know black and white feeling, then that was a good thing, and I'm glad that's working.
Thanks, David.
Brian, I got a quick comment, two quick comments. How
Yes,
does the
Michael.
harbor master feel about one having these moorings? Is he in favor of doing that? And then second part is, we talked a little bit about what the revenue might be or what the cost is per night for the use of the moorings?
So your first question was, what's the harbor master's feeling on this?
Yeah.
Stephen?
Well, the town administrator is for it, so I am for it.
Okay.
So
And
that's,
I do have Dave Doffany again. I do have another question or comment when you guys are ready.
go ahead, David.
Just a thought. Maybe we can look into it. Is bow stern moorings that may it's a tighter fit and it's a little bit better set up for transient because they're here for a few days or whatever it might be. Maybe it's something that works. Maybe perhaps in places that a boat may not swing 360, but we could get them on a bow stern. But it'd be something that might be interesting to look into, just as an option. You could maybe get some more out of it, especially in the summertime. I mean, in the winter, anybody that I know of that has a bow stern mooring, they let the stern one go so your boat rides freely. But there aren't many boats in the harbor at that time, so.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Brian Cronin.
Go ahead, Brian.
So two thoughts. The first one is if we're going to go forward with this, group the moorings together so it's easy to for the transient coming in to be directed to it over the radio. Trying to tell somebody where a mooring is in the middle of a mooring field is kind of tough. So like along the south side of the channel or something like that, you might have to move people around, but that's just one thought. When you go into harbors around, all the transient moorings are usually grouped together. And the second thing is, do you have to add something to the mooring regulations that you're going to be renting moorings?
We'll have to. Where will we do that, Brian? I'm fairly familiar with the mooring regulations. Where will we have to do that?
You probably need to do that in the part that says you can't rent moorings.
No. So okay, I'll take a look at that. Thank you. I was thinking more in the lines of, so in there, I believe it identifies that the boat clubs can have up to 5 moorings. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So what you're saying is somewhere in that range, we would have to modify the rules and regulations to include the fact that the town of Scituate would have a limited number of moorings available for rental, because there is no verbiage in there about anyone else renting moorings.
It actually states in there, Brian, you can't rent moorings, so you'd have to make an amendment in there, maybe that says something that other than the town of Scituate, no one is allowed to rent moorings.
So Mike, would you and I work on that one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. If I remember correctly, that's something that obviously, if we modify the rules and regulations, this will require us to bring it to the Board of Selectmen. If Maura's out there, maybe she could confirm that as well.
That's what we've had to do that in the past.
Yeah, you have to do that. Any change to the regulations you would write and then come before us so we would approve them.
Okay. Thank you, Maura. Thank you, Brian.
And I do have a novice question. Will we be marking these 3 rental moorings in a different color so they are easily recognizable for incoming boats to see?
That was Steve's intent in some early stage discussion, correct, Steve?
Yes, what I would do is I have a company that makes the channel markers and the no wake markers for the town, and they have all different color combinations. So it would be a white and blue with maybe white with a blue band with maybe another color on, that's very identifiable from a distance. Yellow or something that's not being used. Yellow is used for certain areas like shellfish. So we'd have to come up with another color. I would just contact the manufacturer to find out what's available.
Okay, that would be great. When I was in Gloucester 2 weekends ago, they were all clearly marked as a bright neon orange. Very easy to.
Yeah. So mooring balls is supposed to be white with a blue band. So we'd probably do white with a blue band with maybe an orange cap on it.
Great.
That's very, very identifiable.
Thanks, Maura. Okay, so Mike Gibbons, circling back to you, I know we answered the first part of your question. To answer your second part, which is kind of important in terms of any financial projections, no.
Yeah, I wasn't really talking about financial projections. I think, it takes a lot to get the data on how often you get rent and all that stuff. But I was just thinking about what's the fee per night or per day?
So obviously we don't want to undercut anybody else who's out there.
Yeah.
So we would take our lead from that, as did, for example, down in Plymouth. My understanding that the Plymouth down there, the harbor master has a fee of $65 or so. That includes transportation that I believe Franny may be providing that. That transportation includes the ability to go to a number of different locations, whereas the Plymouth Yacht Club is to and from the Plymouth Yacht Club, and it's approximately within $1 or $2 of the same amount. So the model would be something similar to that, I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other comments out there? I've been scratching down my to-do list on this one.
Different comment from Brad White.
Yes, Brad.
Brad White, Old Main Street, Marshfield Hills. I've not received meeting minutes for the last 3 or 4 meetings, so I'm not sure if other participants are also not receiving. Hopefully we can get on that list on the meeting minutes. I get the agendas, I don't get the minutes.
So in the past, have the agenda, has the minutes been posted, Brad, and you go get them from our website, or are they mailed out to you through eServe?
The latter.
Okay.
And a comment for those that may not have heard, sad pass, Captain Lou Gaynor, Nautical Talk Radio, 28 years here, passed away on Saturday. He succumbed to pancreatic cancer, was buried on Tuesday. Real good guy, great to our marine maritime community, and he fought it to the end. But Lou has sailed on.
Thank you for that
Sorry
update.
to hear that. He's a fantastic guy. I knew him well. I didn't know he passed. I knew he was sick.
Lou is a fun guy, an interesting guy, and he told me at breakfast one morning that he was maintaining his Hull residency because he bought the nicest plot at the Hull Cemetery overlooking Boston Light. And I actually saw his plot, and that's quite a cemetery up there. It's quite beautiful overlooking the light. And that's what he wanted, and he got it.
So, Mr. Chairman, how do you want to proceed on this issue regarding the town moorings.
So before I call for a roll call and a vote on this, I just wanted to make sure there were no more comments from the audience. Anyone else out there that wants to jump in? Franny, you out there? You want to comment?
The only comment they had is we have done this 2 other times before, explored the possibilities, and the legality of renting was the sticking point every time. So it has been looked at. It has been looked at several times, but it never hurts to look at it again.
Okay. And what you're saying about the legality of renting, Franny, is above and beyond the modification to the rules and regulations?
Correct.
And is this something in
The regulations state pretty specifically that there's no renting. The yacht club and the boat club, there's a provision that they can have 5 guest moorings. This doesn't say they can rent them. We've always considered what we do a service, and it's a twist, but that's what the harbor has always done. Before I came here and the 30 years that I've done it, it's called providing a service. So you got to be careful. It's going to have to, you have to look at the wording.
Franny, this is Rick. Murray, I think you're right, but the big difference here is this is being run by the municipality that owns the rights.
That's who was trying to run it before, Rick.
Pardon me?
That's who was trying to, do the same thing before. We were trying to, in certain times in the past, set aside up to 5 moorings that the town would use as guest moorings.
Yeah.
And the biggest sticking point was the legality of the, renting. And then there was the jumping of the mooring list. They felt that would be a real monster when people find out they waited 15 years and now the next 5 opportunities that they might have would disappear. It's just a lot to, it's worth looking at, but it's a lot to digest. I wish you the best.
Yeah.
Rick, I got to tell you, Rick, I'm a little less concerned about it because all we have to do is see some precedents in Edgartown or in Nantucket who have already established this. So I don't think we're starting from ground zero.
Yeah, we're probably not, but it's federally dredged, and so the Army Corps of Engineers, I'm sure, would need to weigh in, and let's just check with them, or I'm very confident Steve Moan knows who to check with to make sure that we can do it without ending up in the hoosgow.
Sure.
Steven, can you check with Plymouth with the harbor master down there, since I understand that's something relatively new for them, correct?
It is also Barnstable and Oak Bluffs and Falmouth all do it. I've been speaking with Greg Frazier about this. He knows quite a bit about it.
Okay. So there's some action items required on this, but I don't think it would preclude us to at least take a vote via a roll call as to the waterways position, because before we expend a lot of energy on this in these different action items, I want to make sure that this is something that members of the Waterways Committee would like to pursue. So if I could get some help on this on a motion, I'd like to make a, I'm sorry? Okay, what I do is I'd like to make a motion, and Rick, you're an expert on these, so maybe you can jump in and help. I'd like to make a motion for the Waterways Committee to send a letter to the town administrator for the town to consider moving forward with 3 to 4 moorings for the town to own and utilize as it sees fit. I don't want to put the word renting in there, or Rick, maybe you can help me out here.
To use as sees fit for use by transient visitors.
Okay, so
moved.
I'd second that.
okay.
I said use by transient visitors just to make it very clear that we're not doing this to sidestep anything internal. And I didn't see anything about renting or a price or anything else.
So Alicia, I'm not sure if you got that, that motion. If not, I scrolled a lot of it down.
Could you read it again, please?
Alicia, did you get it?
Hold on, to make a motion for the Waterways Committee to send a letter to the town administrator for the town to consider moving forward with 4 moorings for town use to use as see fit by transient visitors.
Rick, close
By
enough?
I think it should be by the harbor master for transient boaters.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
By
Thank you, Steve. I like that.
By the harbor master or transient visitors, right? Or boaters.
Voters.
Boaters.
Yes.
Yeah. You don't want someone swimming out and hanging onto it for dear life.
You want to rent it and sit on it for the weekend? You're welcome.
Quite literally.
Okay. All righty. So, Alicia, you want to try reading that one back?
yes. Okay, a motion for Waterways Committee to send a letter to the town administrator for the town to consider moving forward with 4 moorings for use by the harbor master for transient boaters. Wait,
Okay.
as see fit. Hold on, I need to. For use by the harbor master.
As see fit by harbor master for transient boaters.
Yeah, that'll catch it. Good enough.
Okay.
I'll move that.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'll take that as a motion. Can I get a
Second the motion.
thank you? Okay. All in favor? I got to do a roll call on this one, please. I'll start with you, Rick Murray.
Aye.
Howie,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Steve.
Aye, but I generally abstain if there's enough votes.
Okay, you can abstain. And Brian Kelly will also aye. So unanimous, Steve, Moan. So unanimous is 1, 2, 3, 4, Alicia.
Thanks.
With Steve, the harbor master, abstaining. I will create this letter and then the action items follow back for next month's meeting. And at which point the letter which I create will be then sent off to the town administrator. If that's acceptable with everybody. Once we finish up these other action items, one, checking with town council on the modification, whether or not there's any legality issues. Mike Gibbons and I will work on some verbiage for the waterways mooring rules and regulations. And then there's some smaller items, for example, color, et cetera, that we can address at that as well. Okay. So,
Brian?
Yes, please.
This is Stephen. The only reason I abstain is I just always want the townspeople to make their decisions, rather than having me weigh in on it, unless there needs to be a tiebreaker.
Yeah, that's more than fair, Stephen. I know you've always wanted to be the tiebreaker. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten you there yet, but we promise we'll try harder.
No, don't.
Okay. Alrighty. I apologize for keeping this meeting going so long, but there was a number of items to cover. The last item will be at the next Waterways meeting in September. Hopefully we can meet in person, but again, the restrictions as of today, or actually the restrictions as of last week when I met with Jim Boudreau, was the fact that we couldn't have more than 10 people. So therefore, if we're still limited and Seth from Scituate TV will be so kind to let us use the Zoom services, we will avail ourselves of that. At that meeting, I would like the Waterways members to give some consideration to be put into nomination for chairman and vice chairman. Both Howie and I have served for the past 2 years. And this is a very rewarding job, and I don't want to deprive anyone of their ability to be involved and do this. At times, it's a fair amount of work, but it's, as I said, is very rewarding. There are a number of people who are on the committee that have served as chair or vice chair that will be only too willing to help. And I'm not precluding those people from running again, Rick Murray. But I will also make the promise that I will shadow anyone for the first several months to help them get up to speed. And I'm more than willing to continue running the finance side of the equation on this, which will take a lot of our burden off there. But I certainly want to give someone else the opportunity to be involved and to make an impact. So if everybody would give some thought to it, and at next month's meeting, we can have a deeper conversation and schedule a vote. Okay?
Brian, question?
You're bringing
Sure.
a tear to my eye, Brian.
Thank you, Howie. Was that a tear you were wiping away, Howie?
With a tear.
Yes, I think, David, was that you a question?
Yeah, just a quick, if we could put something on the agenda for new business next month to discuss. I believe when we look at the problems we're talking about at the Spit and the North River, about the increased traffic, one of the things that we have to at least consider is that, and I'll just skip to the conclusion or to the end of the story, is Rote Marine this year added a number of floating docks. They're expanding their footprint. I think as the Waterways Committee that we should at least understand what is the governing body on how such things are done. And not that adding is wrong. I'm just saying we should understand how things are done. I did a little looking around, and I think I understand the limiting factor to adding more moorings is how many parking spots you have, and literally a parking lot. And I'm noticing that a lot of the Rote Marine boaters are now parking across the street on 3A in that scenic vista area, if you know what I mean,
Yep.
because the parking lots fill. So it would seem that this equation is out of balance, and we should at least check into how it's done. And it's probably a big basket of worms I'm opening up that I truly don't understand. I know, but I think it's worth discussing.
So 2 things, David. I'll gladly add it as new business. I'll certainly meet with you offline, coffee or beer, whatever the case may be, and have a little deeper conversation. So on the Rote Marine side, that's Mike DeMayo. On the A to Z side of Rote Marine, that's us, right? So any of the 10A floats that are on the Marshfield side, that's not us. You're aware of that, right?
I'm aware of that, yes, but I don't. Do we wait until someone adds these floats on the Scituate side and then we have a conversation, or I just think it should be. We should understand what the rules are, because they're already parking on the Scituate side. So if these are truly controlled by the number of parking spots you have, and they're starting to fill the scenic vista area, which is not meant for the boat goers, that's for other people. I mean, if you look at the North River, it is almost entirely private. There are no public access points. So one of the only area I know of, and I could be wrong, is the scenic vista and the path down to the water where a number of people fish up in front of the 3A bridge. So I think it's something we should understand.
Oh, yeah, so we're now moving into a discussion of a new business thing, so I will add it, and we can certainly discuss it. Just for your edification, there are some other public access points. There's a red house that I believe the owner for people.
You provide
Brian, it's Rick
Yeah.
Murray.
Yes, Rick.
Brian, yeah, so I'll defer to Select Person Curran on some of this, but, or actually all of it, but 3A is of course a state road. So I think our police have the right to ticket people there, but it's not technically under our jurisdiction. So in your deliberations offline, as you prepare a formal agenda item, just be aware that 3A is a state road. It's a little different than, if this was, Stockbridge Road or something like that. And
Great point.
I'll defer to Maura if there's anything else relevant to that, but it's not
Maura?
so easy as just expressing our discomfort with people using a state vista area.
No, but I think it warrants evaluation, right? If
Of course.
yeah, if we indeed are parking there, and if we need to engage Senator O'Connor or our state reps to try to enforce, we certainly can do that.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
But good point, Rick.
Thank you, Maura. Thank you, Rick. Okay, if there's no other comments from the audience, could I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
You're not going to get off that easy.
Oh!
That's just because of the Red House comment. Anyways, Dave Doffany, 356 Clap Road. Can I just circle back around to the Museum Beach Nourishment Project?
Sure you can.
Just briefly, and these are observations, and I would defer to the fact that this was a 3D project. Dave Sinkowski, Dave Friedman, and Dave Doffany met a number of times to discuss this not only Museum Beach and what's going on, and it's great to see that the Conservation Commission has stepped up and had these paddlecraft removed, but along the same line, and I want to keep this as part of the discussion as we go further into the fall. There are a number of issues that are happening of late. One being from multiple sources that rocks were moved at Conservation Park to facilitate parking in the no parking area. Somebody went down with a machine and moved the blocks and made that happen. Paddlecraft left on Museum Beach were in excess of 55 when I counted the other day. That's up from 30 last winter that I reported on, just as a conversation piece. The parking along 3A at the Scenic Vista, people are parking there and carrying their kayaks across 3A to the A to Z property, which is still Rote Marine, but on that part. So I would ask and urge that this paddlecraft issue that's been kicked around a little bit in Marshfield, Mike DeMayo has spoken at selectmen's meetings about the fact that it's becoming a bigger issue. And of course, this year it's $150 to go to Walmart and get a kayak and go in the water, and the next thing you know, you're in trouble. And our resources are doing that. So there's some chatter about trying to put a kayak placement rack at the Maritime Center, but they don't want to pay to launch, and it goes back and forth. So I think we keep it in front of us, and I think it's something that I am, of course, I'm tuned into it maybe a little bit more, but have people just keep an eye on it. And we're seeing a lot more parking in our boat ramps, and that's consuming space. It's consuming space paid for by other patrons, and there's no reimbursement for any of that. So I just wanted to bring that up and make sure that we kept that on the forefront.
David, we will certainly keep this on the agenda and make it a discussion point at next meeting.
You got it.
It's all very valid point.
Brad with a comment.
Go ahead, Brad. Brad White.
Yes, Brad White, Marshfield Hills. I live a strong 9-iron from the Vista Park there, and just wanted to make sure I was aware that I transit that street 3 times a day for the last 30 years, and I can tell you the last 2 or 3 years, there are a lot of people parking at A to Z and crossing 3A to get to Rope Marine. Now, he's done a better job there. He used to have a police officer there on Wednesday nights, which quieted down quite a bit. However, people hum down that hill if they're trying north on 3A. And people that are, I'll just use the word straggling across the street, it's dangerous. So, you know, could there be a crosswalk? Could there be a light? All that stuff is state related. But I just want to make sure people are aware that they're parking in Scituate to access Marshfield in a dangerous way. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Brad. Very valid.
You betcha.
Okay. All righty. So that being said, we will add these items that we discussed as either new or old. Both the Davids. Brad, thank you as well. And with that being said, could I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
So I got Howie and who else out there for Alyssa's help?
Second.
Thank you, Rick. All righty. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate all your time and have a good rest of the night. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye now.
Thank you, Seth.
Excellent, excellent.